This is it. My channel is over 2 years old now. In the course of these 2 years, made 99 videos, this one being my 100th. There's some weird quotations around my 100th video. I counted some live streams, but not all of them. There was some unlisted stuff, some deleted stuff. Some stuff just doesn't count. But for all sakes and purposes, this is my 100th video. This year, I want to take my channel in a different direction. But first, to celebrate 100 videos and 2 years, I'm going to go through all 99 previous ones, self-reflecting, giving my thought process making them, what I could have done better. Of course, if you don't care about me rambling on about 99 different videos, you can just skip to the end, and I will talk about the future of this channel at the end of the video. Without further ado, let's begin. This one is really interesting to look back on. Before I was known as the Comic Cat guy, or the Flash Games guy, or even the Roller guy, I was the Garfield guy. I got my start drawing funny Garfield pictures, that was what most people identified me with. Despite it being the first video on my channel, I think it's actually one of the better drawing-related videos that I did. I think it's a good start to my YouTube career, and for some reason, this is still one of the most viewed videos on the channel, which I will never understand. After my first successful Garfield video, I didn't really want to branch out and just wanted to do more Garfield-related stuff. This was the first gameplay video I had ever done across any of my channels. And it's terrible. You can tell I wasn't really comfortable or familiar with what I was doing just yet. And for some reason, this is another one of the most viewed videos on the channel, so that's great. I'm not going to delete the video just because I'm not proud of it, but I will say that there is an upcoming Flash Chronicles covering these games that'll act as a much better replacement for this one, so hopefully YouTube will stop recommending this to people. Another really bad gameplay one. After 2 Garfield videos, I had somehow already run out of video ideas, so naturally my mind jumped to, dinosaurs. It's terribly recorded, not entertaining at all. One of the 2 worst videos on the entire channel, in my opinion. And oh look, here's the other worst video on the channel, and I actually like this one less, I think, because it's a lot more embarrassing. It has the same terrible level of quality as dinosaur games, plus my dumb face on top of it. I didn't really have my typical face video format that I tend to use now, and I didn't know what I was doing. It's really just uncomfortable to watch. At the very least, I think this is the last video on the channel that I completely despise. I'm not really a fan of the intro to this video, but I think once you look past that, this is one of the best out of all these old ones. It's still pretty cringy, but you can see my usual format and joke style sort of coming into formation with this one. It really feels like a later video than it actually is. It's also really reflective of the kinds of videos I really like making, too. I really like to make super strange and niche stuff that absolutely nobody would ever be interested in, but making it sort of entertaining or interesting to watch. I'm still really proud of this one. Still haven't made the promised sequel where we have the actual sumo fight. I've yet to find another person to sumo fight me. Rollercast Episode 1. I consider this to be another one of the best and most important videos out of all of these old ones. I guess I should talk about how this came to be. So, roller levels were these sort of meme levels that we would create in Platform Racing 3. They would take at least 40 minutes to finish. It was usually just an upward staircase full of bombs. It was supposed to be tedious and terrible. No one was intended to finish them, but myself and a handful of other members kept hosting them and trying to force people to play them. Another one of these people being RMX.exe. And then after a little while, he came to me with the idea of starting a podcast while playing roller levels, since they were long enough to really work for a podcast. And the 2 of us were among the most well-known for pushing roller levels. We talked about it for a while before actually starting it, but after a couple months, RMX had asked AstroPenguin642 or Cade to join us, and we decided to actually go for it. The first episode is a little messy at the start because the roller I made is not at all good for a podcast, but we turned it around really quickly, and it's actually a really good first episode. This was only my second time in a voice call with RMX, and my first time in a call with Cade, so I was actually really nervous going into this first episode, but looking back, it doesn't really show. The fact that I recorded the scroll bar on the side of this video will forever haunt me, but there's a lot of good stuff here, and RMX's alarm going off at the end of the episode is still one of my favorite moments from anything on the channel. Look at that, the first kinda good gameplay video on the channel, not counting Rollercast since that's meant to be more of a podcast. This was also the first appearance of Basil on the channel, who would end up being a regular. Basil was in almost all of my videos on my previous YouTube channel, so we were used to recording together, but for a first gameplay video together, I think this was a good start. Like I said, most people knew me as the Garfield guy, so a lot of my early viewers were mostly looking for Garfield content. A lot of this early stuff is very Garfield focused, and this one's okay. This one's hard for me to watch because I was so bad at Garfield Kart back then. This was, I think, my first time playing the game. I did get much better, but this one's hard to watch just because of how bad I am at it. The intro is so loud and the video is so quiet. A lot of these early ones are just kind of ruined because I was just the absolute worst at editing, and there's also the scroll bar in the recording again, so that's pretty cool. This episode is more gameplay than it is podcast. We're mostly just goofing around in the game because I created another not very podcast friendly roller level, but this is still a really entertaining episode, and there's a lot of good moments. The Rollercasts are really interesting to look back on, just because of how much has changed regarding the stuff we talk about. Cade talks about his game Rogue Royale in this episode, which was before he completely redid the game and renamed it Vast Forecast. This is also the first video on the channel featuring Ice That's Cool, who, like Cade in episode 1, I never actually talked to before in a call. Another episode ruined by my terrible editing. The game is so loud. The commentary was really good too. It's just a shame that you can't hear it. This is another one that's going to be replaced in a future episode of Flash Chronicles. Luckily for me, this one is not recommended to everyone on the internet like the other Garfield Flash games. My first time reviewing Garfield comic strips on the channel, which weirdly would become a regular segment for a while. This one's pretty good for the most part. I hadn't done one of these before, so I was able to pick the best strips that I'd have the most to say about, and the Final Fantasy music in the background weirdly kind of fits well. The biggest problem is that there are only 9 strips in the video. One of the clips somehow got cut out in the editing process. I still have no idea how I managed to do that, but this one's pretty good and a decent way to celebrate G40. Wow, there was a new episode of Rollercast every 2 uploads for the first 3 episodes. It's crazy to think how quickly we used to get these out. Once again, this was my first time talking to Mist in a call. The podcast parts are really good. I especially enjoy the whole Italian food argument. The part where we stop having a podcast to play Platform Racing 2 is actually really fun too. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. It's just another good episode of Rollercast. The first episode of Nitro Must Die, and the only one we ever recorded. Editing is terrible, but the commentary is pretty decent, making it somewhat enjoyable if you can get past me recording my entire web browser through the whole video. Yikes. We always meant to do a second episode, but recording using Parsec was tough. Maybe we'll revisit this game in a Flash Chronicles someday, though.
No, Basil, get ammo.
Maybe this is hypocritical of me, because I just talked about how I hate how I recorded the whole web browser and the last episode in Nitro Must Die, because this one is the same, but it actually really works, I think. The entire video is just me and Basil fighting for the control of the mouse, just scrolling all over the place, clicking on things. We're not actually playing any of the games because we're just fighting over Parsec and screaming at each other. This is one of my favorite videos I've done with Basil. It's just pure chaos. Looking at the old gameplay videos, I really prefer a lot of these weirder ones that aren't just a basic Let's Play. I still really love this one. Dino Run DX Director's Cut. The audio is really quiet, which is annoying, but maybe that's for the best. I have edited music playing over the game music for some reason. I don't know why I did that, but it's just a mess. Neither of us really seemed all that into the game either. It's an okay video, but the Flash Chronicles on Dino Run that comes much later is a much better replacement. Do you remember this game? This is another okay Garfield strip review video. It's poorly edited, and while the commentary is pretty unstructured, it's not too bad. I might recover some of these strips I talked about before and do a better video talking about them. Most of these aren't bad, but it don't really do any of these strips justice, and I think this one is my least favorite of the Garfield strip review videos. Oh boy, speaking of not doing things justice, Wild Animal Racing. This is a game with so much great video potential, and I feel like I just did this before I was ready. If I had found this now and did a video for it now, I could make something so much better, which, in all fairness, could be said for all of these old videos, but Wild Animal Racing always felt like something special, and I wish I could have made something better. This one starts out with some cute footage of my cat, so I can't mark it down too much. This one might be my favorite of the Garfield strip reviews, but I wouldn't still say it's all that great. This one does feel a little more focused, which is nice. And it's funny that the one I spontaneously made in the middle of the night with almost no preparation ended up being one of my favorites. Not a whole lot to say here, so let's stop talking about it. Let's just move on, whatever. Like Wild Animal Racing, I don't feel like I really did this one justice. I could have made something really special, but instead I just made something kind of okay. I'd say it's better than Wild Animal Racing at the very least. And you know what, I did actually try to record another video for Wild Animal Racing months later, but the footage got all screwed up and I just never revisited these games, which is kind of a shame. I was running out of ideas for Garfield videos. There's a lot of good potential for weird and creative Garfield videos. Just look at channels like Lasagna Cat. But I was bad at making videos, so I just went with the most bland, basic idea for most of these. And I think that's my biggest problem with a lot of these ones. This is the last of these kinds of Garfield videos I ever did, with one very special exception. And there's a reason why I never made a second episode. It just wasn't very good. Now this is what the Wild Animal Racing video should have been. Sure, it's a little bit of a basic gameplay video. The commentary's not great, I was still getting there. But this one is a lot more entertaining than Wild Animal Racing, and this does a much better job of showcasing what the game was really all about. Weirdly enough, Supra Mayrocrat ended up a better video than Wild Animal Racing. Rollercast was a series that mostly got better with each new episode. This one, more than the last two, really felt like more of a podcast. This was a pretty important episode, too. Ice joined the podcast as a regular member, we got the iconic cockroach story, and the classic Roller Rummy drawing was first seen here, and would go on to somehow become my most iconic drawing. I guess I should talk about why I cut them down so much, though. Back during this time, everyone would upload Rollercast to their channels, so I tried to differentiate it a little bit and make a shorter, more of a highlights video than the whole long podcast. But as others would stop uploading them to their channels, I'd cut them down much less for later episodes. Tad draws some stuff. I always forget this video exists, and that tells you a lot about this one, I guess. It's not great. Some of the artwork I do in the video is pretty good. I'm a fan of the scary Mickey Mouse, and a new Garfield is always great to see. You know what though, rewatching this, it does make me want to make more videos like this. Hopefully better videos like this, but How rare drawing videos were on my channel was always kind of weird considering that was the big thing I was known for. I said there was a special exception to the Garfield video rule. This is that exception. This is my most viewed video at just over 500 views at the time of this recording, which is insane. Honestly, the commentary isn't fantastic, and I don't have a whole lot to say about most of the strips that I'm talking about, but this was the first time I tried to do something interesting with one of these Garfield videos. Rapid firing through 40 Garfield strips from the same day, year after year, is such a strange idea. I wish I had a little more focus and went through a little faster, because it does drag in some parts, but this is probably the best Garfield strip review video that I've done. Despite its faults, I'm still really proud of this one. The first channel milestone, my 25th video. This video is just recycled footage, but I'm weirdly happy with this one. It's a collection of clips from the first few videos on my old YouTube channel. Getting to see some of my earliest digital art drawings in a new context, seeing where it all started, and reliving old memories from what was just a year ago at the time. I don't know, but it felt special, and even more so now, about 3 years after that channel. After how much I've done, looking back at where I started is really neat to see. This one holds up really well because it's not supposed to hold up. I always wanted to do more of these videos and cover the rest of the original series in 2 or 3 more episodes, but just never really got around to it. This is so much better than my first Garfield Kart video. The game audio sounds pretty bad, admittedly. I was picking it up with my microphone instead of the computer like an idiot, but the gameplay and commentary are so much better in this one. And hey, I sort of predicted Garfield Kart Furious Racing in this video. I'm a fan of this one. Not great, but hey, it's watchable. And that's much better than what can be said for a lot of these old videos, so we'll take it. Another video that's just gotten a ton of views, and I really just don't know why, especially with how terrible the thumbnail is, probably the worst thumbnail on my channel. It was a pretty interesting video to make, though. The US Acres isn't really talked about as much as Garfield, so a lot of it was actually new to me as I was making it. I probably like this one more than any of the Garfield strip reviews just because it is a lot more interesting. Not all that rewatchable, but for the first time watching, I can see it being pretty interesting. I know this one isn't a great video, but I do like it. It's a long wait before we actually get to play the game, because Garfield Kart online servers are terrible, but I wanted to leave some of that in, because I thought that was part of the Garfield Kart online experience, you know? Once it finally gets to the game, it's pretty good. Deciding to do Garfield Kart with another person definitely helped. Most of the gameplay videos I did with Basil around this time were a lot easier than doing them alone. I felt like I didn't have a whole lot to talk about in the first two, so they really drag on. This one's a lot more watchable. Oh boy, Scribblenauts Unlimited, I guess. Have fun turning your audio way up just to hear this video. The hardest part of watching these old ones is having to adjust my audio before every video. I don't know why I just didn't ever fix the audio. Did I not know how to? I mean, this one's okay, one of the more forgettable videos, but the quiet audio really just kills it. After our plan to record Rollercast Episode 5 didn't pan out, we all decided to play some Garfield Kart Online instead. It went about as good as you might expect, with about 20 minutes of trying to get the game to work before we could actually play together. This video is terrible. The audio is all over the place. I covered the sides of the screen with these Garfield drawings for some reason. It was such a good video that I just ruined. But if you do want to watch this video, but actually good, then I recommend going and watching the version uploaded on Ice That's Cool's channel. You can actually hear the audio, and there's a lot of really good edits. Pilotwings 64, one of my favorite games. The video came out pretty decent. Basil was recording since he was the one playing, so my audio is a little rough, but it's not nearly as bad as the Garfield Kart one. This one is very watchable, at least. I really like this one. It was fun getting to introduce someone to this strange game that not many people that I've met have even heard of. Watching some of these bad audio but otherwise good videos makes me want to try to re-edit and fix a few of these. Don't know if I ever will, but You know, I'll keep the idea in mind. This was recorded right before the last Garfield Kart video, so the audio is a bit rough. But somehow, it's better in this one than it was in Garfield Kart. It somehow just broke even more in between recordings. Anyway, this is a fun concept, and it made for a pretty fun video. But I wish I had done something more with this. I wish I planned it out a little better. I had actually done some editing, and it wasn't just a Krita screen as the footage through the whole video. It's a pretty fun video, not really for watching, because there's nothing to watch, so if you're interested, I'd recommend listening to it. Just, I'm sorry about the audio issues. Okay, I'm sorry. Just starting this one up, this is the first time the Rollercast intro hasn't been terrible. It's not horrifyingly loud, the art is pretty good in this one. The audio is fixed from the last time we tried recording, it's pretty good in this one, and I decided not to include background music in this one, which was a great choice considering how bad I was at audio mixing. Starting the video off with us reading a bunch of the Rollercast comments was a good bit, and there's a lot of good commentary throughout. Some of my favorite parts being the roller coaster segment and the talk about our names. I'm sad there's not a full version of this out there anywhere. Ice was the only other one who uploaded it, and his was blocked by Viacom. Thanks, Viacom. The last full Garfield strip video I ever did. I always weirdly forget about this one, but I think this one might actually be my favorite. The stupid introduction was kind of my first step into the style I'd be doing early in the next year. It really went back to that paper sumo sort of style, which hadn't really been seen since. I think that's why I always forget about it. It doesn't feel like the other Garfield strip videos. It's so different. I like the dark lighting. It fits the spooky strips I talk about well, even if it is a bit hard to see during some parts. I always wanted to talk about this strange Garfield storyline, and I was really happy that I had the chance. I think I did a pretty good job with it. Oh, another kind of generic, uninteresting, unfocused drawing video. Just kidding, I actually kind of like this one. Commentary's a lot better, and there's some more cool art. There's some Comic Cat foreshadowing in there, which is neat to look back at. Well, yeah, it's generic and unfocused. You can really see these drawing videos improve with each one that comes out. I love the intro I did for this episode. The cool Halloween art and the edit of the PR3 fall music to sound spookier. I like how it came out a lot. It goes downhill from there once the intro ends. The audio is so quiet. Why do I do this? I ruined so many good videos with terrible audio volume. The commentary is really good in this one, even if Kate unfortunately wasn't able to make it to the episode. This would be the first in a series of episodes only having 3 of us due to scheduling issues. It's a good Halloween episode, but I recommend watching it on Ice's channel just because of those audio issues. Going into the Halloween season, I knew a Garfield Scary Scavenger Hunt video would be a must. This one came out really well, and the audio issues aren't too bad here. This is another Flash game. I did a video before Flash Chronicles was a thing, but unlike some of the others that I covered twice, I think the original video was actually still really enjoyable. This one has some of the slight audio issues of Pilot Wings. It was recorded around the same time, but it does sound much better than that one. Another pretty good one. We had some great emulator glitches, which gave us some extra material to work with. The picture is pretty small, which is a weird issue that I didn't know how to fix then. If I do end up fixing some old videos in the future, I'd like to at least make the picture bigger for this one. My final video of 2018. While I didn't start the year with the Wild Animal Racing video, this still felt like the right note to go out on. This is for sure the best of the Paul Bird video trilogy. I went in completely blind, I got it the day it was out, and there's a lot of greatness there to react to. It's a fine video, not a great final video of 2018, and it actually wasn't supposed to be. I had a lot more I wanted to do, but it didn't end up happening, and I instead took a much needed break from videos. Tad's 2019 Spectacular was an important video. It felt like a reboot of sorts for the channel. This would define the style of a lot of my bigger videos to come. The whole intro I still think is pretty fantastic. The first minute and a half is just improv, and looking back on it a year later, I think it's still a pretty great segment. Then suddenly my audio becomes really quiet. There was still a bit of that 2018 terrible editor Tad in there. It's a shame too, because I really like the rest of the video otherwise. This video holds up alright. The volume change is annoying at first, but not terrible. The music during the Garfield segment is far too loud, and that part I really can't say anything positive about. It's a very transitional video between what would become two very different years, and despite its flaws, it ended up pretty alright. Well, this is a weird one. I was a campaign judge for the Platform Racing 3 campaign contest, so I decided to make a video playing through all the levels that were submitted. It's not very rewatchable because, you know, the contest ended early 2019. It wasn't even made to be all that entertaining, it was just to let a small player base know what I thought of some of the levels. It's so different from everything else on the channel, but I kind of like it because of that. I always wanted to make a weird, large variety of different types of content, and even though this is sort of a long, tedious video that's not worth watching anymore, I strangely like it. I can't really explain why. Early 2019, my channel was starting to pick up steam, and I was gaining an audience from Comic Cat. I was able to do something I had never done before, videos that depend on community interaction. There were a few Comic Cat edits out there, and I thought it would be a fun challenge to see if everyone could make some cool ones, and I would talk about them in a video. I did these in the Garfield strip videos sort of way, so it has some of the same problems that those ones had. It was really fun getting to showcase these though, because a lot of them had a ton of effort and creativity put into them. It ended up being a pretty good video, though I have to give most of the credit to the edit makers for giving me great stuff to work with. Weirdly enough, the intro to this episode of Rollercast was the most impressive thing I had ever made up to this point. Just figuring out how to put a picture over a video took hours. This is a great video, though. This is definitely the least podcasty episode of Rollercast. It's just 20 minutes of my internet dying. From start to finish, this is actually a really funny episode, though. We managed to turn a messy, disastrous recording session into a great video. I'm weirdly really happy with this one. For better or for worse, you don't get content like this anywhere else. I really like early 2019 because I was taking a lot of video formats and stuff I had sort of done to death by that point and finding ways to improve them and make them a lot more interesting. This was essentially one of my regular gameplay videos, but I included an intro and outro in the style of the 2019 Spectacular to give it a little more personality, you know? By this point, I had gotten a lot better at gameplay commentary too. This might be the best solo commentary video I've done for any of the gameplay ones. Some editing issues during the intro and outro, which I'm now going to call the Tad Face segments, but this one's still pretty good. Finally, another full Tad Face segment video that's not some sort of comic strip reveal. I really like this one because I got to do something super weird. I got to talk about something obscure that I really cared a lot about. I really tried to make it informative because I was pretty sure my audience hadn't heard of it, and the jokes throughout make it a pretty alright video. I didn't feel like I really did the park justice in this one though. It was really unfocused. I didn't go as in-depth as I would have liked, but these problems are addressed in a later video, so looking back at this one with the context of the sequel, I think this video is fine, and makes for a good companion video to the one that would come later. The end of the video, with the Flintstones characters leaving with their suitcases as the Bear in the Big Blue House's goodbye song plays, still gets me weirdly emotional. Like I said with Spy Muppets, during this time I was really looking to improve on my old ideas and formats. I wanted some way to make drawing videos a little more interesting, so I combined this with the Comic Cat Edits video and drew the profile pictures of people from my Discord server. It's a pretty alright one. I think knowing what I was drawing next really helped and kept the video a little more focused. This one follows the same format as the Spy Muppets video, with the gameplay sandwiched between two Tad Face segments, and I think the Tad Face segments are better than the ones from Spy Muppets, but I think Spy Muppets may have had a better gameplay portion. It's pretty alright, not much of anything to say here except for This has a really long title. Now this is my favorite drawing video on the channel. The biggest problem doing drawing videos is that I never felt like I really had much of anything to say. So having my Discord server ask a bunch of questions ranging from actual questions to nonsense, I was able to keep talking throughout the whole video, and it actually stays fairly interesting throughout. And the whole thing, there weren't really many cuts, most of it just stayed in. I do a lot of cuts when I don't have anything to say, or there are long spaces of no commentary, but it wasn't really an issue here. I'm happy with this one, and weirdly enough, this was the last drawing video of the first 100. I am going to change that soon, though. The first gameplay video of the year with Basil. Randomized Pokemon Nuzlocke videos are always pretty easy to commentate over because of all the weird nonsense that can happen. Nothing much to say, but this was a really good one. One of the best non-Flash game, non-Rollercast gameplay videos on the channel. My second milestone, the 50th video on the channel, and my first time really talking deeper about Comic Cat. I wanted to do a full self-reflection of the series up to that point. How do I self-reflect on a self-reflection video? There's a lot of rambling, as these Tad Face videos tend to have. It was nice to be able to talk about the comic and my creative process, but I'm not sure the format really worked. I tried to do a strip-by-strip review in the format of the Garfield videos. It worked out okay, but as we'll see later with the Season 3 review, it wasn't the best way to go about it. Alright, I'm grouping these three together because they were all recorded together and they're all pretty much one long video. I really do love this series. Blue Kid 2 is one of my favorite games, and watching us slowly descend into madness playing the whole thing in a single session was great. Nothing really special about these, but they're fun. We actually finished the game, but the recording got screwed up for the last 2 episodes. I still have the audio, and I might release it someday. We'll see. Another video where I decided to look to my Discord server for inspiration. This time, I literally asked them to give me video ideas, and then I did them all in a single video. This one's pretty fun. Each of the things are pretty short, so it doesn't really drag on at any point. The video has the first mention of MVP, Most Valuable Primate, on my channel. I wonder if we'll hear about that again at some point. I also showed off the old Comic Cats on the channel for the first time. That was pretty neat. Pretty short, pretty dumb video, but it's pretty good. And the ending is fantastic. Up until now, most of my videos were made in a pretty short period of time. They didn't take a whole lot of effort to make. My video on MVP, Most Valuable Primate, was the first time I really went all in on a video and put everything I had into it. Sure, it rambles a little bit in the beginning. Sure, there's a few very small editing issues or audio issues, but this is still my favorite video on the channel. It represents everything I love about making YouTube videos, talking passionately about some stupid, obscure thing that I love. I still think this holds up really, really well, and while I've come close, I think it's going to be hard for me to top this one. If anyone hasn't seen it, I'd highly recommend it. The first episode of what would end up becoming the biggest series on my channel. The funny thing is, Flash Chronicles wasn't even an idea that I had before starting this recording. Me and Basil just wanted to make a video about Fancy Pants, a simple gameplay video where we talk about our history with this classic. As we played, we started thinking about other Flash games and how Flash was soon going to be gone. I thought it would be fun to make a little series out of it, archiving Flash games before the end. The first episode's a little rough since we didn't know this was going to be the first episode of what would be a huge series. It was just meant to be a regular gameplay video. This is a weird one. I only counted 2 full streams in the official episodes list, this being one of them. This one didn't really have anything worth cutting out since the whole point is that it was a test stream, but I didn't want to just delete it or anything, because seeing me figuring out my first stream was sorta neat, and I don't want to just delete a part of my channel's history like that, so I counted it as an official episode. Is it worth watching? No, not really. The classic VHS tape video, another really fun one. Right off the bat, there are some annoying audio and editing issues in here, but making this video was one of the most fun ones I've done. It's just such a weird discussion topic. The Paramount VHS opening and the VHS phone number sound, how those terrified me for some reason. Another one I wish I had scripted and worked a little more on, because there was potential for something really, really great here, but I still had a ton of fun making it, and it came out pretty good. The first real Rollercast of 2019, and once again, this is another good episode. Rollercast was pretty hard to schedule, and I think it had been half a year since episode 6, so a lot of this episode was catching up on everything that had happened during that time. Audio was good, I made some editing errors, but it's a good time. Seeing Roller Rummy all over the screen for the whole thing is always a good thing, and us attempting to play Garfield Kart again at the end was a pretty good way to close it out. Another episode of Flash Chronicles. We had attempted to record a few others before this one, but the recordings got messed up. This is a pretty good episode. The file bar on the top is pretty annoying, and you can tell Flash Chronicles didn't have as much of an identity yet, but hey, anything Duck Life related is probably going to be pretty good. This one was actually recorded months and months before it went up. I literally lost the footage and didn't find it until half a year later. This one is great though. Me and Basil had never played Club Penguin before, and this was also the first channel appearance of Liquid Zulu. This one had so many good moments. The snowball war, the pizza game, the whole scene in the restaurant, among my favorites. I'm pretty sure Club Penguin was a Flash game, so maybe we'll return to it someday in a future Flash Chronicles. This one had a really small picture, and I don't know why. I don't know how I managed to do this, but boy, I sure did. That aside, this still isn't a great one. A strip-by-strip improv discussion about them doesn't really work for self-reflection. I wish I had scripted something and formatted the whole video differently, because it's one of the most unfocused videos I've done. I would make up for this in a future video, though. We'll get to that. We'll get to it. This is where Flash Chronicles really took shape in terms of what the series was for. It was a good look back at the history of Bionicle through the various Flash games made for it. I really like this one. I wish the audio was a little better, and I wish the picture wasn't weirdly small. I still don't know how I managed to do that, but I do enjoy this one, and this is also the first video on my channel to get a copyright claim, so that's pretty special. This was always a game I wanted to talk about, as it's easily the least beloved and well-known of the platform racing series. The audio and picture were finally fixed in this one, which I'm thankful for, because this game made for a really great episode. It's pretty short, so we were able to cover everything, but there was enough to talk about for the whole thing. The last segment, when Camera joins with me and Ice desperately trying to beat him in a race, that whole build-up to one of my favorite moments where we finally beat him is just amazing. From episode 6 to episode 8 of Rollercast might be my favorite few of the series. I brought back background music for this one because I finally knew how to adjust audio levels by that point. There's a lot of really good stuff in this one. The comic strip talk at the beginning, RMX's brief cameo, Ice disconnecting by the end and just deciding to make a Twitter account instead. Just another really good episode of Rollercast. Bloons Tower Defense is a tough game to do a video on because it's mostly just watching monkeys do stuff on their own. I do think we did a pretty good job with it though. I wish we were able to cover more of the courses in the game, but it would have been like a 9-hour episode to cover everything the game had to offer, so I think we did the best we could with it. And I actually never found out if the game was supposed to have music or if the one that I had was just broken. This was recorded right after the platform racing episode, and I'd say it's about as good, maybe even better than that one. Like PR1, it's a pretty short game, so we were able to cover everything, and it's also weird enough to provide good commentary throughout. Oh, and Ice actually figured out what Mrs. Richards meant recently. It's a Fantastic Four reference. Very clever joke, Jigman. The first appearance of Mimsim on the channel in what was the longest episode of Flash Chronicles at the time. We really went in-depth with the game, aside from the multiplayer. It's a shame that didn't work, but I guess the original Dino Run video has a purpose still now. This is a much better showcase of what Dino Run is than the one I did over a year prior. This one still suffers from small box, but I think it's a good episode. Boy, I really did a lot of Flash Chronicles in a row right here, huh? Everybody Edits was a pretty good video. Watching back, I don't sound too enthusiastic about it. I feel like I didn't really give the game a fair chance. We only really scratched the surface of Everybody Edits. It's a really big game. Maybe a follow-up will happen someday. Who knows? A weird case where a stream isn't considered official, but there's a stream highlights video instead. This is a pretty good video that gets much better as it goes. It's a little rough when I was streaming by myself, but once Zulu and later Ice showed up, it did get a lot better. Garfield 64 was a great mod, and there was a lot of material to work with. I really like this one a lot. You forgot the anchovies. This one is my second favorite video on the channel. It comes close to being better than MVP, honestly. The Tad Face segments are a little rambly, but they aren't too bad. I'm so happy that I was able to go back and get actual footage of the park. The first Bedrock video was good, but being able to actually show what it was like was amazing. The commentary over it is good. I wish I had scripted it a little better. There are a few too many ums and uhs in there, which is a little annoying, but it's not terrible. It's not too distracting. It makes me so happy I was just lucky enough to go back to the park. And I'm glad I was able to properly talk about it instead of just vaguely describing it. I hope everyone was able to get a real feel for what Bedrock was really like. I was happy with the ending too, showing off the old pictures of the park when it was new. I'll be sure to revisit the park too once Raptor Ranch is open. I'm grouping these two together since they're pretty similar. Platform Racing 2 was a very special game to me, so I knew the episodes on it would have to be special too. It was the first multi-part Flash Chronicles, and I did these first two episodes with BLS 1999, who basically runs the game now. These episodes are great. They do a good job of showing off a variety of things that really made the game special. There's still 2 more episodes left to release, and those should be out soon after this goes up. Another one that I really just enjoy because of how weird and different the topic is. Advertisements in comic books and magazines were really interesting to me, and I just wanted to talk about them even if it probably wouldn't interest most people. The unscripted, little focus, usual format kinda works for this video too. It's more of a reaction to seeing these advertisements again, not quite as much of an informative video. One of my favorite Tad Face videos on the channel. As usual, it's yet another good episode of Rollercast. There's a lot of good stuff in here, from the amazing opening to all the pizza discussion. My internet died during the second half of the video, so the audio changes, which is really weird, but I'd say it's still really good in that second half. Garfield Scary Scavenger Hunt is just a Halloween tradition at this point. I did videos 2 years in a row for it. Unlike Dino Run, where the second video is showing a different aspect of the game than the original, in both cases here, they're both playing across both games, but the commentary is really different and it has a really unique feel from the first video, so I feel like both of them hold up in different ways. A great start to this batch of Halloween Flash Chronicles episodes. I'm really disappointed that I screwed up the recording somehow. Audio recorded for the whole thing, but I had to record new footage for the first half of the video. This was the hardest I had worked on an episode of Flash Chronicles up to that point, just redoing the first half that I screwed up, but it was well worth the effort. This was a good episode even if the footage didn't exactly match up. Flash Chronicles is always fun, and weird Scooby-Doo games made for a good episode. Another Halloween Flash Chronicles. I really need to space Flash Chronicles out better. Another good episode about a weird niche game that most people probably weren't familiar with. The only real issue with the episode is that, for some reason, I tend to release a ton of Flash Chronicles at once, but looking back at it on its own, it's really good. And here we are at the last Halloween Flash Chronicles for the year, and it ended on a great note. We recorded almost the entire game and realized OBS wasn't recording. The episode's kind of a mess, but in a good way. For a game like Frankenbob that most people wouldn't know or care about, honestly, I think this kind of episode actually works better for the game, and it ended up being a lot more entertaining than the original might have been. A good finale to this wave of Flash Chronicles. This one was incredibly fun to make. I wanted to make a Halloween video, but I didn't really know what to do. I just decided to turn on the camera and make a video with pretty much no preparation or idea of what I was going to do. As a result, the video ended up being really entertaining, but also the stupidest thing I've ever made. As for the lost footage, I actually have no idea where that was from. I just found that saved on my computer and decided to throw it in. There was a lot more to it, but I decided to spare the world the rest of that clip. I'm still extremely happy with this one. Basically, Decade Decaf, who made the game outside the lines, was going to delete the game's Discord server, but after the community tried to convince him of keeping it around, he gave the server to me. I made Ice an admin, and everything went downhill from there, as you see at the end of the video. We decided to make a joke, developer behind-the-scenes video. The first bit, talking about the game and answering fan questions, was great, but Ice's suggestion to pretend to leave the recording running and laugh about how our plan worked out just really sold the video. It's one of my favorites on the channel. It's just such a weird idea, and everything just miraculously worked out. Another one of my favorite videos just because of the concept and how much preparation really has to go into something like this. My Minecraft server was playing and building stuff for about 2 months straight before it died, and we decided to destroy the server to pay tribute. This one it's so fun to make, and even though there are some minor frame issues, I still love that one. And honestly, some of the frame issues kind of add to the comedic effect. Probably won't do anything like this again. I started getting requests from people to grief servers they were in, and I really don't want people misunderstanding the point of the video. This is the first Comic Cat video on the channel I'm somewhat happy with. It has a lot of issues, the usual unscripted, just wing it style, and the audio only parts are way too quiet. I don't know how or why this keeps happening, but there we go. I don't know what's wrong with me. This one's actually pretty interesting, though. It was cool getting to talk more about the creative process and my approach to the whole series, not just reviewing strips. Some annoying issues that should have been avoided, but it's pretty good, I think. Another Flash Chronicles, and a really long one at that. I really like this one because it really feels like a good summary of what Transformice is. I had never actually played the game before, so Mimsim wasn't just informing the audience, but me as well, and I think that worked out well for the video. Even if it does just turn into Uno towards the end, it's really good throughout. My return to Garfield content isn't just good because it's finally another Garfield video. This was my first step into making more scripted discussion videos. We'll talk more about it when we talk about my plans for videos to come, but this one really is a good introduction. This was also the first time I had talked about something relevant, which was weird for me. The game had just came out when I made this, and it was pretty cool being able to talk about it right away, and talking about it in relation to the first game's tracks. This format's kind of a blueprint for the video you're watching now, so that's neat. The second and last full live stream in the first 100 that counts as an official episode. It was such a dumb idea, and it ended up being a really fun one to do. Doing it live, too, was especially fun because we got feedback from the live chat during the whole thing. It was for sure more fun to watch live, so I don't know exactly how entertaining it is looking back. Christmas with the Cranks was insanely fun. None of us had seen these games before, and they were weird enough to get some really good reactions. Doing it with 3 people made for an even more chaotic episode too, which was great for a weird, obscure set of Flash games. Wyatt Duncan, the creator of the Garf Gab series on YouTube, was in this episode too, which was really cool to do because I had been watching his YouTube videos for a while. This one's a lot like the first Bionicle Flash Games episode. It's really good and really entertaining if you know about Bionicle. And I actually like this one a lot more than the first one, I think. The audio's a little rough in places. These were some loud Flash games, but it's a big improvement from the first one, and I'm pretty happy with it. Another case of small box, which is pretty annoying. Aside from that, this is a great episode. Basil hadn't been in a video in a very long time due to a lot of our recordings somehow getting destroyed. Pretty standard gameplay video, but we had a lot to say about the game, and it ended up being one of my favorites I've done with Basil. Sonic Adventure is just one of those games that never really gets old as far as videos go, and I think with our drastically different thoughts on the game, it made it a bit more interesting too. We recorded this one months and months before it went up. We were going to play more of the game, so I waited to edit it, but we never did anymore, and looking back at the footage, I thought it was good enough to work as a standalone episode. Like Fire Red, this is a really, really great one, and I think I actually like this one a lot better than Fire Red. I love the terrible, abrupt ending. I forgot during the rewatch that I put that in, and I just started laughing out loud. I love just dumb endings to my videos. When I'm not working on videos, I start to feel really bad and really lazy. I also happen to play a lot of Smash in my free time. Smash Ultimate also just so happens to give you an easy method to put replays on your computer. The stars aligned. I don't know how it took me so long to realize I could be doing this, but better late than never. Of course, Smash videos are nothing new, those are everywhere. And both the footage and the editing, I feel like I tried to put a lot of my personality and style into it, so it wasn't just another generic Smash video. It's not perfect, but I really like this one a lot. It's so different from everything else on the channel, and it was so much fun to both record and edit. Looking back, I would have done a few things differently, but this was a great start to a new series on my channel. I'm going to group these three together because a lot of the Flash Chronicles are pretty similar in how I feel about them. All three of these are really good episodes. Lion Rider, we got to dig up some pretty interesting stuff about a pretty well-known game, and Snowline and Deep Freeze were nice showcases of more unknown games. Another good collection of holiday-themed episodes. I feel pretty much the same way about this one as the first episode, so I won't go too into my thoughts. This was the last video of 2019, and we talk about what we want to do and where we want to be by the end of the next decade, so it's actually a pretty interesting video. It's hard to say which of the first two Smash videos I liked better. The first one I think had maybe more memorable and funnier moments, but I think as a whole video the second one feels a little bit better. No segment feels like it really goes on for too long. The first one did drag a little bit in spots. This one also has slightly better fitting music for each segment. Regardless, both of them are really good, and I'm very happy with both. Comic Cat Season 3 in review follows the same ideology of the actual Season 3. I saw that there was a problem, that something wasn't working. I tried a new format, scripted out my thoughts, didn't go strip by strip, and just talked about my approach to the season as a whole. I even went back and did small reviews of the first two seasons for context. The editing isn't great, it's not that interesting to look at. I wanted to focus more on the commentary, which I think I did a good job with. Going forward, I will put more work into the visuals for stuff like this, though. I really do like how it sets the stage for the season, and I like the sort of atmosphere throughout the whole video, if that makes sense. I think I did Season 3 justice with this. Even with its slight issues, this is one of my favorite videos that I've done. I won't say a whole lot about Yville because it is a pretty recent video. I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen it and are interested in seeing it. But this is one of the most strange Flash Chronicles episodes. This website from the 90s is so strange. I won't say anything else. I'm very happy with this one, and I urge you all to watch it if you have like an hour and a half free. It is a long one. I don't have a whole lot to say about this last Smash one, because I'm actually editing this one as I'm recording this, which is strange, but it's looking like it's gonna be a good episode. Just another good episode of Smash, sort of more of the same thing. I'll probably take a bit of a break on these for a while now, because I feel like I've done a lot of them recently, so I'll give it a little bit till my next one, but yeah, this is good, and it's neat being able to talk about something that just came out, like this is going up within 24 hours of this DLC character actually being put into the game, hopefully, which is just cool. I'm gonna stop rambling, it's cool. So now, let's talk about where I want to go with the channel going forward. Looking back at the first 99 was a good, it's been a good reflection of what I like and don't like about my videos. A lot of the old ones really kind of just run together, they don't feel that distinct, but the weird ones and the good ones, they really stand out. Let's start with Flash Chronicles. Let's get that one out of the way first. That's going to be more or less the same this next year. Flash is going to die in December, so sorry if it's not a series you're interested in, there's going to be a lot to cover before then. And that's also just one of my favorites to do. That series is just really fun. I won't do like more than 3 in a row again, and even 3 in a row I think is maybe a little too much. I do want to space it out with the other stuff much better. As for goals for the series going forward, I mean, more good episodes. It would be cool to get some of the creators of some of these Flash games in some of the episodes as a guest. That would be super cool. For other non-Flash gameplay stuff, I want to change that up a bit more, I think. I don't want to do too many just standard Let's Plays. Some of the gameplay videos that stand out on the channel are like Outside the Lines, or Minecraft Griefing, or even Spy Muppets. If I do gameplay videos, I want to do something weirder, you know? I might have some standard ones, stuff like Blue Kid. That was a game that was really obscure, so that was sort of fun to do a video on. Or even like the ongoing Sonic Adventure series right now, because I mean that's basically just a podcast. Definitely not like a ton of those, and for the most part, I want to make stuff like that feel a lot more unique. Drawing videos and Comic Cat videos. I do want to go back to doing drawing videos. I actually have another one in the works right now. It's a fairly standard one, but I mean I haven't done one in like a year at this point, so I feel like that's okay. But going forward, I do want to do like more interesting stuff with the drawing videos because they've been kind of the same for the most part so far. Maybe find like weird drawing challenges, or stop eating a box. What's wrong with you? Or making a Comic Cat for a video. Just stuff that's a little more interesting than just straight drawing me rambling like I am now. Comic Cat videos are going to continue as long as the series does. I might branch out a little more with other stuff, but I do also want to branch out with just stuff other than Comic Cat that I make this year outside of videos, you know, different comics, different other projects. So I expect I'll talk about those as well as those happen. Hopefully they happen. Oh, hopefully they happen. Maybe I'll even talk about more of my old terrible comics if anyone's interested. That's always fun. And finally, we come to everything else. I really just want to make a lot of weirder stuff this year. I want to try my hand at movie reviews, sort of in the vein of MVP. I want to talk about strange things that I'm weirdly passionate about, like Bedrock City. I've had a lot of ideas for videos recently that I've just kind of scrapped because I didn't feel like I could put them off, or I didn't feel like people would really be interested in it. But now I kind of just want to throw out weird stuff and just see what happens. Anyway, enough rambling. Thank you all for sticking with me these past 2 years, whether you've been there since drawing Bad Garfields or you started with one of the more recent ones. It means a lot having people who watch my dumb videos. There's a lot of great, or I guess possibly terrible stuff to look forward to, so stay tuned for that.